mentioned the joy switch. So what is the joy switch? And I mean, as you said on here, what sets you off? And I've read the book, and I know that it's not easy to say on and off all the time, but just let's talk about what the joy switch is here for a moment.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. There's times in the Bible where something happens or maybe something goes wrong and people kind of temporarily forget who they are. So it's like Peter telling Jesus, I will, they might, reject you. I won't. Like, we're in this. Like, I'm with you till the end. And Jesus is like, no, actually, you're going to deny me. You're going to do it. And he's like, no, I am with you. So Peter had faith. He had willpower, right? He was going to try to make good choices. So Peter was determined to be faithful to Jesus and not to deny the one that he loved. And we all know the story that things got intense, things got scary, right? And he's questioned several times, and he denies Jesus. He denies that he knows Jesus. So he did the very thing that he said he wouldn't do. And after Jesus turns to him and he sees, and they kind of lock eyes, and Peter realizes what he's done, it says that he wept bitterly as he ran off, right? But he wept bitterly. That Greek word is very strong. It's like, you want to die. Like, I just did the very thing I never wanted to do. I denied my Lord, and I didn't want to do that. How could I have done that? And so from brain science, we'd look at that story and go, wow, Peter temporarily forgot who he was because his self-preservation circuit took over. And so when our self-preservation circuit takes over in our brain, we kind of temporarily forget who we are, and we react, and we just try to avoid pain. And it's a pain avoidance. It's a fear system in the brain. And when the fear system is running, we're not a good version of ourselves. And so the joy switch is basically putting words to this system that it's kind of like a circuit breaker. And my wife, sometimes uses a hair dryer to dry her hair. And sometimes she plugs it into a certain outlet, and inevitably, like, the power goes out on that outlet. It's just too much on that outlet. And the circuit flips. So I have to go downstairs to the circuit breaker box and flip the switch back on. And in a sense, we have that relational circuit breaker in our brain. And when we expect joy and glad to be togetherness, the switch kind of comes on. So it's like when I travel and I'm missing my wife and my sons, I can't wait to get home and walk in and see them and, light up when I see their faces. When you expect joy, the system kind of turns on, and it's running in a good way. So it's like we're relational, we feel peaceful, we're hopeful, we're a good version of ourselves. But when something goes wrong and I can't manage what I'm feeling, so maybe my flight gets canceled on my way home, and I get really upset because I'm tired and I'm eager to be with my family, and I miss my family because I've been traveling for a while. My flight gets canceled. Suddenly I'm focused on a problem. Now I become, maybe non-relational in some way. So I'm getting mad. Maybe I'm getting short with people, or I just all I could think about is just trying to get out of this mess to get home. And that's what we call enemy mode. So enemy mode is basically when, people around you feel like enemies. I'm not glad to be with people in the airport because I just want to be home. And it's just, that's where we kind of lose ourselves sometimes. So this switch can be on or off. We actually kind of compare it to more of a dimmer switch. So that means that I can be relational, things are going well, but then things, maybe things don't happen or play out the way that I'm hoping. And I start to feel a little bit of the wind taken out of my relational sails. So maybe I'm starting to get sad or mad or disappointed. And then suddenly, next thing I know, I'm reactive. I'm saying and doing things that don't really reflect the heart that Jesus has given me. I just don't reflect who God made me to be. I'm acting like a different person. And then, maybe I quiet, something happens, and maybe I come back eventually. And I'm like, wow, I really, said some things I regret. I have to apologize. I didn't handle that very well. Kind of like Peter, where like you do things that don't really reflect your faith or your values very well. And so brain science tells us the switch is there. And we can learn to recognize when we start to lose it, right? And okay, I'm losing my relational self. I need to get back. I need to do something here to get back to be, my relational self once again. And so you can learn to recognize it, but you can also learn to recover when things start going wrong. Because if we live in enemy mode, basically we just make a mess out of things. We just say things we really don't, we're not glad that we say. We do things that's hurtful or rude or offensive. And we're in the part of our brain that is not pretty. We're in the part of our brain that's run on fear, and it's just focusing on trying to get results. We want to win. We want to come out number one. Like we just want to come out on top. These aren't good. This isn't a good place to be. And so it's interesting to look at, like, even Moses is another great example when God told him to speak to the rock in Numbers, and people were complaining again and they were thirsty, and instead of speaking to the rock, he got angry and he hit the rock. God still brought the water, but Moses temporarily kind of forgot who he was, and he said some things and he did some things that really had big consequences. Now he didn't get to go into the promised land because of what happened. So we all have limitations, and when we run out of our, what I call capacity, when we run out of the relational bandwidth that we have, the results show up in whether or not we're relational. And so I become a non-relational version of myself. Maybe I just want to be on my phone. I'm lost in my work. I'm no longer in tune with my people, with the relational stuff that's going on. And as you said earlier, I can know the Bible beginning to end, but if I can't relationally be a person that reflects Christ, there's going to be a disconnect, and it's not going to be a good result in how people view me or what I represent if I'm not a relational version of the God that I serve. And so being relational, we thankfully serve a relational God. And even Jesus, while he was enduring the cross and some of the hard stuff that he was going through, he remembered who he was. It was painful. It was awful, what he was going through, but he remembered who he was. He didn't forget who he was. He still forgave people. He still prayed for people. He stayed relational. It was just a remarkable, really.
It is.
He could do that.